Okay, so you got 4 out of the 5 steps of the interview skill model. The 5th step is, what questions do you want to ask them? I guarantee you, if you've ever been through an interview before, and probably most of us have been through at least one, that statement or that question comes up in almost every interview. Toward the end, they'll ask you, what questions do you have of us? Most of us use that as an excuse to end the interview, to be honest. We'll talk about that more later on. But it's an important part of the interview. If you tell the employer, I don't really have any questions of you, in order just to end the interview quickly, what have you communicated to that employer by making that statement, that I don't have any questions of you? What you're telling that employer is not that you want to work for them. That's not important to you. You just want to work. Because then if it were really important to you, if this job working for this company was really important to you, there would be things that you need to know, and there are things that you ought to know in order to address the issue of fit, because you need to be looking for fit too. And there ought to be things about this company and about this job and about these kinds of things that you need to know the answers to. If you just say, I don't have any questions, you're telling that employer that you don't really care about the job of that company. You just want a job. And so it's important that you prepare ahead of time. Because if you wait and try to think of questions on your own, the stress and the anxiety of the interview situation tends to get the best of most of us. And when we're asked to think up questions kind of on the fly, at the spur of the moment, we go through a kind of brain freeze. And we go, yeah, I can't think of anything. And so they say, I don't have any questions. And so now, before the interview takes place, a week before the interview takes place, is when you want to be thinking about this issue of what questions do you have of them. And that's the time when you want to come up with these questions. And I want 5. So the 5th step of the 5x5 model is, what questions do you want to ask that employer? And they need to be questions that center themselves around corporate culture, company growth and development, reporting lines of the position, responsibilities of the position. Anything that wasn't covered in the initial interview needs to be things that you need to ask questions about during this particular phase. But the 2 questions you should never ask in this phase, and I think you already know what they are, salary and benefits. And I know that's the 2 questions that probably is burning at you, the questions that you want to know the answer to more than anything. But this is not an appropriate time to be asking questions about salary and benefits. And it's not really to your advantage to ask questions about salary and benefits. It really puts too much focus on the hiring aspect of it and not enough on the fit aspect of it. It makes you appear to be a little too greedy at this point. We'll talk about other reasons why this is not really the appropriate time for you to discuss salary and benefits in the section of career conversation that we have to talk about salary negotiation. But that's later on. Right now, it's just not to your benefit to talk about those things right now. That doesn't mean you shouldn't know what the salary range ought to be, or at least a range of what that salary needs to be. But that's your responsibility to go out and do that research. It's not the employer's responsibility to tell you. So you don't really want to, it's not really going to be, like I said, to your advantage to do that. So let's just ignore that completely right now. And focus on the job, and focus on the company, and focus on the industry, and focus on corporate culture when you ask your questions. Don't focus on your particular salary and benefits. There's time later for those kinds of questions.